Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 1 of our solo climb to Challenger here in season 11. Since we're not in the heart of Smurf queue yet, we're going to want to take more of a scaling Evelynn page, running Gathering Storm in absolute focus. We're also going to be going for a full jungle clear out to get ourselves ahead. It's typically best to avoid early ganks when you are playing in lower elos or with less experienced players. Oftentimes they struggle to follow up on your ganks and you'll fall behind by default, so instead it's better to play around your champion's specific power spikes. For Evelynn, that's just scaling up to level 6 and absorbing as many camps as you can. I normally avoid ganking for Vladimir's or Nasus's early games. Since Mordekaiser is so far pushed up, I actually feel like I can solo him. These are the main type of ganks you want to try to look for, regardless of whether or not your teammate reacts. Can you indeed solo and kill the enemy laner in time before they can get to their turret? And in this case, I really do feel like I could have done it without the Nasus. Zoe comes in for a hard collapse. Lee Sin's here as well. I know I can't fight them, so I'm just going to drop the charm, run away, and just try to survive. If I died, it wouldn't be the end of the world because I would get the faster base recall, and respawns are really low at these early levels, so it's basically just denying them gold. But regardless, I'm going to shoot back into my full clear. I can go to my Gromp and full clear back up the same way I just did, and if Lee Sin does linger topside, I can take some of his camps as well. This is a big mistake a lot of junglers in low elo do. They'll just way over linger after a gank, which gives you an opportunity to take their camps or even a neutral objective. As I'm leaving Lee Sin's jungle, he's spawned in, and notice how I leave 3 very helpful pings to help Ashe realize that Lee Sin is roughly in that area, and I ping where he is and where he's going to be going. It's very important that you don't actually ping your teammate. That doesn't really show or teach or help them do anything. They don't really know what it means. So if you can actually ping where it's coming from and to where the opponent's going, your teammate won't feel harassed or targeted, and they're more likely to listen to you and less likely to mute you. So I would recommend starting to adapt your pingings to reflect where the enemy is and where they're going. The only reason I'm going in for this gank is I'm almost level 6. I just need Vladimir to kill 1 or 2 minions. I end up going out early since Zoe steps up really far. Lee Sin comes in, and since he is so far behind, I just know there's no way they can even beat us in a 2v2. I got XP from Zoe dying, so I am now level 6. My blue buff's up. If you look on the minimap, his red buff is red. So I head over there, and while I was still visible, I actually juked the other way, so he probably doesn't even think I'm coming over here. Right now I'm just trying to turn on the summoner names, so hopefully will be on his red buff, and I'll just walk in on him like you see here. I 𝐒𝐿 onto him. I actually mess up my smite really bad, but we're able to stay on top of him and pick him off. If you can hit level 6 before the enemy jungler does, because they're doing bad ganks, not farming enough, or if you're just ahead, it is almost a guaranteed win for Evelynn, because you can show up on their second buff spawn with your ultimate and they'll have absolutely no way of soloing you. It's just super dangerous for them. Zoe picks me off here. She sacrifices a lot of CS to do it. Overall, it is worth for her. The more you jungle, the more you'll realize patterns repeat themselves quite often, since monster camps spawn in at a linear rate. So if you get invaded once on your red buff, you're likely to get invaded twice, 3 times, etc. So I show up here for the second time and find him on his red buff. I typically try to avoid fly traps unless I have at least a dark seal, if not a Mej Eyes. A lot of the times with fly traps, it can put you behind since you're waiting so much. It can definitely help if you have a monster camp like golems there, so you can do something while you're waiting, but generally you don't want to just be sitting there waiting longer than 10 seconds because you miss out on a lot of gold, XP, and neutral objectives around the map. Right now with the current jungle meta, I do think fly trapping is arguably more valuable than it used to be on Majia's junglers like Evelynn and 𝐒𝐿. Since getting gold and XP is harder than it used to be, you can still get extremely high artificial value out of Dark Seal and Mej, since those weren't specifically nerfed. The enemies end up surrendering, and that wraps up game 1. In game 2, I'm overall very happy with our team comp. I think I banned Yone or Kayn, and they ended up picking 𝐒𝐿r, which is a huge pain in the butt because 𝐒𝐿r has the highest win rate and pick rate out of any jungler right now. I'm very happy with our team comp. Having a Seraphine and Twitch gives us huge scaling, and in lower elo games or with less experienced players, games tend to drag on because people aren't rushing down Rift Heralds. I was messing with some of my settings, and an absolute scrap broke out near mid lane. This isn't the worst possible situation for Evelynn, since her level 1 scraps are really strong with her super low Q cooldowns. roughly, I'd say 5 or 6 months ago, they made Evelynn's Qs very short cooldown no matter what she uses it against. Her Q used to be on a much longer cooldown, and unless she hit a monster with it, that's why Evelynn top lane is actually pretty decent right now. We don't have time to recall, not the end of the world since Evelynn farms healthy. We get a ward down to make sure 𝐒𝐻𝐿 doesn't cheese our opposite side jungle. With any type of jungler, particularly a power farm jungler, you need to know if the enemy's invading your opposite side since it is very vulnerable because you're not crossing over early typically. A lot of times after your full clear on Evelynn, you have the opportunity to gank or go for scuttle crab or both, recall and then start up your full clear again. If you know you can't win the 1v1 against the enemy jungler, it's better off to just recall and go for opposite side scuttle. Especially since you can get an item purchase, you may be able to solo them after you do recall. Here we see 𝐒𝐻𝐿 on Scuttle Crab because one of my teammates laid a really good ward. So I know after golems, why would I go gank top lane when we're going to lose that 2v2? And why go fight for Scuttle Crab? So instead we can recall, buy some items, maybe fight 𝐒𝐻𝐿 on bot side Scuttle, which is what we do. On my first back after a full clear, I typically go for a Dark Seal with boots. If I have free boots in my runes, then I'll just try to get an amp tome instead of boots if I can afford it. I don't know what this guy took for his level order, but he doesn't seem to have bear stance, which is highly unusual. He either went for double points in Tiger or for double points in Phoenix for faster clear speed. With that being said, it was obviously a mistake for him to try to solo me. I guess he just thought he could since I was Evelynn, but with my boots and Dark Seal, I'm actually pretty strong right now. Fights like these in the early game against non-scaling champions like 𝐒𝐿 are super big. Like that pretty much right there kind of sets the tone for the rest of the game and is going to put him in a constant state of being behind. And I have Gathering Storm absolute focus on a scaling jungle champion, so with that alone it kind of loses his team the game unless his other teammates can radically crush my laners and offset that imbalance. Because now 𝐒𝐿, he won't really be able to invade me, and he's going to have more and more trouble trying to fight me on neutral objectives like scuttle crabs. It's also going to give me a nice time window to possibly hit level 6 before him and then let me kill him in his jungle, which is very rare. 𝐒𝐿 is one of Evelynn's worst matchups. The gank timing here wasn't that great for 𝐒𝐿. His red buff was coming up right as he was ganking, so now that his gank didn't turn out, I'll have the opportunity to take it. Seraphine is following me, which is really cool. I suppose she realizes what's happening, so I ping him on my way. I try to communicate, and instead of roaming mid, she actually stays over here, which is awesome. 𝐒𝐿 is obviously going to come in the area, and we could probably kill him as well. This is one big way how supports are super impactful in the current meta. They are essentially a second jungle champion. If they're willing to mirror their junglers, it gives you just such a big boost and makes the game just so much easier. Even though she's not a Pyke or a Blitzcrank or a Thresh, doesn't have that much hard CC or even that much damage, it makes a huge difference. I do end up getting picked off, but it's still a huge golden XP swing for our team, and we can take more waves and map pressure off of this. On top of the early game advantages that we built, we did our best to try to get every dragon and herald that we could, which allowed us to snowball the early game and avoid a 30-minute long game. Once games start going to the 30-minute mark and later, things can get really weird as people have 2, 3, 4 full items. Team fights just become super unpredictable and just want to avoid it. Try to end your games at the 25-minute mark or sooner, and to do that you'll find that you really have to get the Rift Heralds, otherwise you just can't. Game number 2 was a win as well. Now we are in our third game of placements. In my experience with the new Smurf Q system, after your first 2 games, win or loss, it will calculate your KD, your damage dealt to champions, your objective participation, and how fast the games are ending. It'll take in all these stats into account, so even if you do lose your first 2 games, if you do phenomenally well in your third game, the opponents will be highly ramped up. Both teams after the second game will typically have 2 to 3 Smurfs of sizable proportions, and it will typically have 2 to 3 very average players on each team. The trouble comes in to when one team has 3 Smurfs and the other team only has 1. The games can be very one-sided at this point. In this particular game, the game was highly one-sided. There was a lot of situations where we'd set up kills, blowing everything that we have, and then some people on the team would just last hit it. So we never really got the gold that we needed to carry this game, and the enemy Kayn just built so much tempo right off the bat of this game that there was really no coming back. I'm still very happy with my overall pathing and performance, and my damage dealt to enemy champions was virtually identical to the enemy Kayn, and he was absurdly fed, so still happy, but we did end up losing this third game. That is going to wrap up episode 1, Climb to Challenger season 11. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. There will be more to come. My name is 𝐒𝐂𝐋𝐒. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you guys next time.